feeds.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deborah Rose, Payson Realtor, but also talk show host. Thanks to Cameron Davis behind the camera, owner of Razor Thin Media. Hi, Cameron. We're trying to build the audience for just a minute. We want you to join us, share this program, like it, and help us get it out to the masses. Just letting everyone know, shortly after this show, we have our wonderful, distinguished guest, Walt Blackman, which I'll formally introduce in just a few seconds. But we are going to have a meet and greet right after this show at my office, 431 South Beeline Highway, Suite 1 in Payson, Arizona, from 10:15 to about 11:30. So please come out and join us. We have cake and coffee, so I don't know how you can pass that up. So without further ado, I want to welcome Walt Blackman.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
I want people to get to know you a little bit more because you're District 6 House of Representative,
Yes.
our representative, and you're running again, aren't you?
I am, and it's a 2-year stint, if you will. It's two House seats. Brenda Barton is also running, and then we have the Senate seat, of course. And Payson is part of the district.
Yeah.
So it's the second largest district in the United States.
It is?
Yes.
Is it because of the county and the square mileage?
The land
square
mass.
miles? Yeah.
The land mass.
Okay.
Yes. So,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it puts a lot of miles on your vehicle.
Oh gosh, yeah. When you're out campaigning, and I know that your campaign manager has been doing a great job, Darlene Yonker. And
Yes.
She's been kind of leading you around to great events in the community, and
Yes.
I met you at the rodeo, the
Sure
oldest continuous running rodeo in the world, the Payson
did.
Rodeo. So,
Sure did.
and you were very popular there.
A lot of that has to do with Darlene. She makes sure I get my name out, and she's been with me for about 3 years. Mm-hmm. So she makes sure that we cultivate this area very well. But it's more the voters that are informed. We try to keep them informed, and I wouldn't say it's a popularity thing. They were just ready for real leadership.
Yeah.
In this part of the state.
Yeah, and leadership, I know, begins with courage and wisdom. Talk to people about your background. You come out of a military family, is that correct?
Yes, I'm actually third generation military. My great grandfather was in the served in World War II. My dad served in Vietnam. Career military folks, as am I. So I grew up in a military family. I grew up on military bases. So service, it wasn't a surprise to anyone in this capacity growing up that way. So it was just the second nature for me to serve after I retired.
Yeah, how many years and what branch of the military?
21 years and served in the Army.
Well, thank you for your service.
I appreciate that.
All veterans, in my humble opinion, are heroes.
Well, thank you.
It's an honor and privilege to have you here in Payson and visiting
Thank you.
us on the Facebook talk show. So what do you want people to know about your fight for the seat again? What is it that compels you to want to be a politician again?
Well, I mean, if we look at what's going on around the world today, particularly in the United States, we've got Seattle, there's riots in Seattle, we've got California, we've got late-term abortion in New York, and they're all starting to migrate into principled, family-oriented conservative values. And that's what they seem to be doing. So the two main issues, the reason why I'm going back, is one, to fight abortion, and then second, to make sure that the violence that's going on in the country doesn't get to at least our district. So I want to make sure we do that. So being on the Criminal Justice Reform Committee and also Vice Chair of Judiciary, I'm going to go back and make some additional laws, write some additional legislation that really places consequences tough when people tear down statues, burn buildings, and destroy businesses. So
yeah, I think thank you for that, because I think Americans, for the most part, are extremely frustrated by the lack of consequences, the lack of justice. So that's something near and dear to my heart, is the justice element of it. What do you think it's going to take, though, if a lot of the judges in the court systems are liberals? How can you overcome that challenge?
Well, the president's going to make a good example when he nominates another Supreme Court justice, which is conservative. In the state, we do have a number of judges in Arizona Supreme Court that are conservative. The problem is not so much the judges' actions; it's the way the law is written in Arizona, which is truth in sentencing. And it doesn't give judges in Arizona enough leeway or latitude to make on-the-spot decisions as judges. So they have to follow a streamline or a check box, if you will, if somebody comes in front of them. And in some cases, it makes them look liberal, or some cases, it makes them look a little bit too hard. Criminal justice reform that I'm running gives judges more discretion in that area.
So in your first term, I noticed this on your bio, you wrote 87 pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
Were you trained to do that?
No, ma'am. So it's a lot of late nights, a lot of late night reading, and just keeping my head on a swivel, paying attention, but mostly listening to what voters need. In our area, northern Arizona, our district have been left out of the fight for too long. We've been part of the menu for a lot of years, but now we're part of the table, part of the conversation. And in order for me to make sure that LD6 was able to move forward, I had to get smart pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of help also with my team, and just to make sure that I get a couple different pairs of eyes on some of this legislation.
Absolutely, that's really good. There was I found something on the website about you that you were part of a sexual assault prevention and diversity office.
Yes.
Are you still part of that?
So my second job in the military, you have one primary job that you do, then you have like a detailed job. And that detailed job was a coordinator for sexual assault and sexual harassment, because as you know, a couple years ago in the military kind of exploded. A lot of things came out. So they developed a program called SHARP, and it's Sexual Harassment Response Program. And they trained a number of leaders to recognize that and provide counseling and provide advocacy for these folks that have been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed. So I did that for a number of years, went to a lot of schools. And then when I got out, I decided to continue to do it, but I don't do it on an advocacy level. I do it as a public speaker. So I go into schools, I'll go into organizations and talk about how they can prevent these things and how they can mitigate the dangers of it.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a big problem with sexual harassment. There's a big problem in the court systems. But what I have learned through personal experience is that the court systems are so bogged down. Like a case can get drug out for years and years and years. Yeah. Why is that? And can that be fixed? And is that something that you are trying to change?
It can be fixed. The problem is it's not the process of the court, it's the backlog of cases that we have. If you look at, especially on civil suit, everybody and their grandparents want to sue somebody.
That's true.
And then we have these frivolous lawsuits that take up the time in the court. So judges have their hands tied because of the law that I told you before. Yeah. They have to listen to all these cases that go through that backlog our system. Plus, it doesn't help that our criminal system is backlogged too, because we have a high opiate use, particularly in our northern part of the state. So if we are able to make sure we have good programs for these folks to kind of deviate from the courtroom, we may be able to cut off some of these long-lasting court cases and go after folks that do frivolous lawsuits.
That's good. And you're talking about criminal justice a lot. I can see that your passion's there. What do you think the BLM movement really is? I mean, what is that in your opinion?
Well, BLM, and I've said it before, is a terrorist organization. They've been infiltrated by folks that don't want to see BLM succeed. They've been infiltrated by Antifa. They've been infiltrated by folks that just want a reason to riot. And they're using BLM as a platform to do it. The sad part about it is leaders in BLM don't realize that. And because of the way things are going on today, it's starting to entrench parties and ethnic backgrounds in their own sort of camps. And that is a goal for anarchists and folks that are Marxists. And they are a Marxist organization, which they have stated on their website. Also, they've been tagged by the FBI and the Homeland Security as a terrorist organization. So we have to call it as it is. Black Lives Matter they don't really look at black lives, because when I look at if Black Lives Matter, 1,000 black babies are aborted every single day in black communities. 80% of young black men that end up in prison come from fatherless homes. So if Black Lives Matter really mattered, then they would be going after these types of issues instead of breaking in people's homes or burning down stores.
Exactly. And if they were to do their own research on the origins of Planned Parenthood, they would clearly see
Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Sanger created that to eliminate the African American community.
Exactly.
And it's shocking how little true information gets out to them and into the general public. And
what some folks don't know, that former Secretary Clinton got the Margaret Sanger Award. And she had a high vote count from the black community. So it's a little bit of brainwash, it's a little bit of not doing your homework, and just some folks are just stuck in their trenches or their tribalisms.
So being military, like I was born in Detroit, you're born a Detroit Democrat whether you want it or not, right? So in the military, were you born into a Democratic Party?
No.
Okay, so okay.
So typically, folks in the military, the majority of them are conservative. And however, being in the military, you can't you can't actually tell a lot of people this, because the military is not supposed to mix with the political sense. So a lot of folks keep their opinions in their homes. But I grew up in a Republican household.
That's wonderful.
So
that's wonderful. Is there any questions from anyone, camera, yet? I don't know. Sometimes we get questions, so we just have to check in with the community. Awesome. And if not, I want you to just speak about what's on your heart. Like, what does the next 41 days until the election look like for you?
A lot of work. I told my staff these 42 days are critical. Because we don't want to lose in the fourth quarter. We want to make sure that we finish strong, and I think that's the way Arizona should look at collectively. As we know, the president is just up 1 point for favorability. For the economic side of him, he's up 15 points. We have Kelly and McSally that are running against each other. McSally she's kind of edging out Kelly now, and in our race, it's the way the district is set. Typically, conservatives live in Gila, Navajo, and parts of Yavapai. Coconino is where we have a lot of trouble at, because it's a liberal county and city because of Flagstaff. So we're concentrating on those areas for our low turnout voters, and that's typically in Yavapai, and in some places of Coconino, the inner parts of Coconino. So we're going to finish out strong. I actually have 3 more events today that I'll be taking care of, and I'll be doing an event tomorrow. My staff they're really great. They make sure that I get enough sleep. They make sure that I get enough to eat. But a lot of this is because I have a great staff, and they are doing wonderful things.
That's incredible. What do you want the community to know about you that may not get out into the news media? And speaking of the news media, do you feel like you've been treated fairly by the news media because you are a conservative?
Well, it depends on what I'm talking about. I have had some bad press, and that's because I went after Black Lives Matter, because I told the truth about the abortion rate in black communities, and I told the truth about the violence on black crime, and then that's when they didn't really like me to say too much. And then on the right, we had a conversation with an organization yesterday. They said that I was too conservative. So I get it on both sides. And then we have the problem with the great state of Maricopa. Those folks down there think that they know and they understand what's going on up here in northern Arizona. And then when we got the call, the person actually said, "You are too conservative for your district." And I asked him, I said, have you been up to my district and talked to people like I do?
Yeah.
No, but we looked at a poll. I said, well, guess what? They looked at a poll for President Trump, and now he's
That's
the president.
right. Yeah.
So I get it on both sides sometimes, but we really get it tough from not the media, but Democrats that are either running against me or have a different political ideology than I do. We've had threats on our family. We've had threats on myself, my daughter. We've had people vandalize our vehicles or the things that we own. So it's all about a political stance.
It is.
Yeah.
It's vicious in this political arena. I'm learning firsthand too. You have to be courageous and have thick skin,
Oh, yeah, you
and
do.
not really care so much about the critics. You want to care about the people
Yeah.
that have their eyes and their ears set squarely on you.
Yeah.
Because I think you represent hope to a
Thanks.
lot of people. And when you talk about abortion in general, can you expound a little bit on that and why you're so passionate against abortion?
Well, absolutely. So if we look at it, it's murder, because we have folks that are trying to abort babies in late term, the 8th and 9th, and also infanticize when the baby has been born. And if the baby, if it's a botched abortion, or if it's something that the mother or parent does not want, then there are states like New York, and there was a law that the Democrats were trying to push last year, that they could actually kill the baby or have the baby just not resuscitate by actions from the doctor. So I'm concerned about what we are going to look like in 100 years from now. Yeah. People are going to look back at this particular time in our country, and they are going to come to the analysis that it was okay to kill our own. Mm-hmm. And that is what's going on. It's not women's health, and the left will say that I am not for health care or women's health care or affordable health care, and I am. I sponsored and wrote a bill to make sure that women's health care is adequate and it's affordable in Arizona. What I am against is when people say abortion is women's health care, because it is not. If we look at when a person goes in to have an abortion, that is an elected surgery. Mm-hmm. That's like somebody going in to get a facelift or to change something on their body. That's elective. Mm-hmm. And then we get in the argument when people say, well, if it's at the danger of the mother or the child, it's not an abortion. It turns into an emergency surgery, and the doctor determines by his efforts or her efforts and skill set if they are able to save the baby or if they're able to save both, the mother and the baby. Mm-hmm. So there's a distinct difference. And what a lot of people don't know in Arizona, that we have a law that's already in place, that abortion is criminal. It's under the criminal statute. And we haven't followed that because of Roe v. Wade. And Roe v. Wade says that abortion is legal, but it's not a law. It's opinion. So I'm writing a law this year that points to the existing law on the books that enforces the statute that's already on the books. And I'm calling it like it is. Mm-hmm. Abortion is nothing more than murder. You can't straddle the line on this. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks say that I should kind of talk a little bit smoother or easier about it. But Republicans, we are at blame with some of this too. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, in Arizona, we've been regulating abortion. And regulating means we're just moving it along, but at a slower pace. We need to abolish it. We're either for saving lives or we're not. And there are circumstances within it, as I said. Mm-hmm. But I am for abolishing abortion. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to fight to do that. And with the recent vacancy in the Supreme Court, we may have some luck doing that. Oklahoma did it, and there are other red states that are thinking about doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Well, I think God is not happy.
No, I don't think he is either.
A lot of babies, when they're born, they have a different blood type than their own mother. So they have their own little bodies too, and they're very precious and valuable. And everything seems to me, what it's really boiling down to is respect.
Yeah.
Like we're losing as a nation, we're losing respect for humanity. And why do you think that is, having served in the criminal justice role as a politician?
Well, I would say it's kind of twofold. When we're talking about the abortion issue and respect, you often hear "my body, my choice," and it is. It is. I agree with that. However, when there's another human being inside of you, that is not your choice to make that decision for life or death for that human being. And then that's a lack of respect for life. So, and the way things have been so normalized in our country, race, or killing babies, or murders in the street of Chicago or Detroit. It's become so normalized that people are just so used to it.
So comfortable almost, isn't it?
Exactly. So now there's a point where they use the word racism a lot. That is starting to become normalized to some folks, that they are accusing to be racist, and okay, you called me racist, so what else do you have in your book bag?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how the African American community is turning on their own. I've seen, like, okay, they're trying to protect and defend their race, and I respect that within reason, as long as you respect others' privacy and their personal belongings and all that. But when they turn on someone like you, or there's other politicians now where they're going after, it seems to be hypocritical in a sense.
It is, and there's some history. If you know anything about Black history, there's some history to it. So during the slave time in the mid 1800s, when a slave was going to escape, and he told someone, they wouldn't tell the slave that worked in the house. You had two types of slaves. You had the field slave and you had the house slave. They named it something else, but I'm not going to use that word. So they wouldn't tell someone who lived in the house, because that person that lived in the house would look at that slave, and they would tell him, well, why should we run away? We have everything we need here. We get the best second food. We get to sleep in the basement or the attic. And that slave that wanted to run away would tell him, let's get away from here. Let's start our own life. Let's think for ourselves. And that's what's going on now, because they would turn on that slave that wanted to run away. And right now in our country, we know the history of the Democratic Party. We know that they wanted slavery, that they created Jim Crow, the Black Codes. They just did a lot of things to the Black community that hurts us now. And when a person like myself or other conservatives say, I'm not going to be part of that, I'm going to get off the modern day plantation, that's when they start tearing on you. So there's a linkage to that from what I see, and that's my own theory of it. But
and that's a great theory, because when you look at it from a distance, I see slavery back in the Democratic Party, because if you're providing free stuff, then you're obligated to return the favor. And I see a lot of people getting caught up in they're giving us this and this, so now we've got to stand up and fight for this. And it's just a downward spiral. We're
still pretty much in that. If you think of the welfare system, Lyndon B. Johnson, the New Society, and he has been quoted to say, if I can get Black Americans to vote for this and support this, I'll have them voting Democrat for generations. That's exactly what has happened. And the government has replaced the father figure in a lot of Black communities in their homes. And now the government every month pays that welfare bill, and then they don't want to get off. The problem with that is it was supposed to be contained in Black communities. It has spread outside of Black communities. Now it's in suburbanites communities. Now it's in Hispanics and Caucasians and Asian American communities. And it's not contained anymore. And we have a group of people that have lived on welfare that's become generational. Those are the things that I'm fighting against. And those are the things folks really get upset when I say it like this.
Exactly. Yeah. They keep you in the position of an obligated child, like they don't empower you to grow up and be encouraged to go out and work. I've always said this, and I know it could never happen, but it would be wonderful if at graduation everyone was required to go to boot camp for a year, just a year, and learn how to go through what you had to go through.
Well, they have to grow up.
Exactly. There's no rite of passage in our culture anymore, and we enable sometimes our children too much because we love them, and I get that, but we also disempower them to grow into their potential.
And they have to make mistakes in order to grow.
Absolutely.
With my own children, I have 5 kids, 4 boys and 1 girl, and all the boys have already left the house because they've already graduated. And a criteria for me was that when you graduate from high school, McDonald's is not a job for a grown person. That is for a high school student trying to learn how to budget their money. So you have 2 choices. You go into the military, or you go to college. If I have to make your choice for you, I'm introducing you to life, because if you don't act, life will make choices for you.
That's beautiful.
So,
I love that.
Yeah, three of my sons said, okay, we're going to college and we're working. They're doing great. My last son, he wanted to play around a little bit, and I called one of my recruiter buddies, and I sent him over to the house, and we were gone. And he knocks on the door, and my son calls me on the phone and says, "Dad, one of your Army friends are here." I said, "No, that's your new friend." So,
I love that.
So after he got on, he said, "Oh yeah, Dad, I decided to go to college." I said, "I know you did." Yeah.
We're hitting on a cultural curse, I believe, in this conversation, and I think you're 1,000% right. I didn't watch television for 28 years. And when I went back to television, I was mortified how the Hollywood elite had so disrespected the male in a home.
Oh, yeah.
The men are idiots, the men are lazy, the men just rage. And I thought, this is a cultural thing where they're trying to get men out of the equation, because if they can get men out of the equation, they're going to take away the protective element that God gave men and the provisional element that God gave man to provide and protect.
Exactly.
And when the men are out of the picture, the big government can step in and, you said, be daddy to all these people that have never experienced the peace and the security of a real dad. So kudos to you. It sounds like you've done a fabulous job with your children.
Well, and I learned from my own parents. My dad did the same thing. Life is not free. You're not owed anything in this life.
That's right.
You have a responsibility to make your way, and a responsibility. If you don't make it, it's what you do. I have the type of father that I call him harder than woodpecker lips. Yeah, he would when I got elected.
Sorry.
Yeah, you okay?
Woodpecker lips.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
You never heard that before.
Compose. Okay.
So when I got elected, I had just spent 20 years in the military. I'd received all kind of accolades, and I really, never really broadcast that. But when I got elected, that was a new thing for me. And I called my dad the day after I get elected. I said, "Dad, I got elected." He says, "And what do you want me to do? Flips? That's what you were supposed to do. That was what you set out to do. I'm not doing flips for you. Show me what else you got."
That's
and
awesome.
That is the kind of parents that I had. Yeah, you pass this, but you can't sit there. You have to continue to grow and develop and to move forward. So I hope I don't overwork my staff with that sort of mentality. But that is just how I grew up, and that's how I raised my children. That you have to work. You can be fair, and you can be pleasant, and you can be nice, but you have to respect that world that you were about to hit. So
that's fabulous. I wish a lot more dads were just like you, and the world needs more people like you. We need accountability. We do need tough love. What we're seeing out in the media is ridiculous. These people they're just so disrespectful, and they're not being held accountable. But I believe as a nation we're going to rise up and fix it. And with leadership like you, I think it'll happen. And I just wanted to say in wrapping up, because I think we're out of time, aren't we?
I got a couple of questions.
Oh, good. Okay, we're going to go a little bit longer, so we have a couple questions for you.
That's great.
So one question is, what is your view on the presidential race right now, and what is it going to take for Donald Trump to get reelected?
Okay, so I'm going to ask it because sometimes people can't hear Cameron.
All right.
So what is it like for you in this presidential election? Can you say it again?
Yeah, so
What is my view on the
Where's your
presidential-
view on it?
the presidential election
And what's it gonna
Donald
take?
need to do in order to win?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, whoever asked that question needs to get out and vote and bring 5 people with them. That's how the president is going to win. My view on this election, it's going to come down to 2 things. There was a lineage of policy and different positions. It's come down to stopping the violence or agreeing with anarchy. That's where people have to vote. We know that President Trump is a strong president. He's a strong president on law enforcement and public safety. He wants to ensure that we continue to support and not defund the police, as I want to also. Yeah. Then we have the left that says they want to defund police. They want to create havoc in our lives, and they want anarchy. So when they go to the voting booth, they are voting literally to stop the violence and to save their communities. And then we go from there. But anything else, I think, is we're not being realistic. And all we have to do is turn on the news and see that.
So if people haven't registered to vote, I know in Gila County a lot of people are moving here from California and other places. What can they do? Where do they register to vote? What can we tell them?
Yeah. So actually, if they live here in Gila County, there is the Republican headquarters that is right across the street from here. They can go and register to vote. Or they can go on the website, the Secretary of State's website, www.sos.az.gov. And that they can go on that website and they can register to vote. Or they can get in touch with me on my Facebook or webpage, and we will walk
give
them through it.
give them your...
My webpage is www.waltblackman.gop. My Facebook page is at the Walt Blackman or Still Fighting for America, and we're pretty responsive on those pages, and we'll bring them a registration form, and that's how important this election is.
Absolutely, and the deadline is when?
I think it's October 5th, but don't quote me on that. But it's coming up pretty soon, and early ballots come out on the 7th of October.
So people have very limited time, like less than 10 days or about 10 days to get registered to vote. So please share the word. That's a valid point. What's the other question, Cameron?
So one of the other ones was they had just moved here from another state. You have won their vote, and they would like to know other state races of people that are like-minded with you that they should be looking to vote for.
Okay, well, we just came out with a golden ticket, and we put it on our Facebook. They can see that golden ticket. So depending on where they live in the district will determine those folks that are like-minded. So in our race, of course, top of the ticket is the president, and then it's Martha McSally, and then it's going to be in our district, Paul Gosar, because he is the congressman for this. He's a great conservative too, part of the Freedom Caucus. And you go down that list, and you will be able to find out who in your district you should vote for. And on the back of it, there are two standards. Are you pro-life? Are you pro-Second Amendment? So on and so forth. And then it has on the other side the Democrats' crazy ideology. And it's really simple. You say, okay, well, I'm for my Second Amendment rights, so I need to make sure I vote for these folks on this card. But it's just really getting involved. And that's how they find out.
And for those of you that don't know, I am also on that ballot. I'm in a runoff election.
Yes.
I'm very excited about it, and I would love to ask people to vote for Walt Blackman and to consider voting for me too. And just go to deborahforpayson.com to learn more, because I am very much aligned with your belief system, and I'm very driven by justice and
Yes.
fairness and integrity, very driven by that. So if people want change, then like you, we've got to rip off the ugly bandages.
Yeah.
And it's like that old book, the emperor has no clothes. We've
Yeah.
got to call a spade
Exactly.
and stop pretending
Exactly.
that things aren't like they really are. And there's
Exactly.
plenty of evidence out there. People need to do their own due diligence, and they need to get their power back by voting for candidates that are going to support their principles and some of their beliefs. We may not align on every single issue, but what is it that you want? Do you want law and justice?
Yeah.
Do you want police force to come around and protect you? Do you want to protect babies' lives? Do you
Exactly.
want integrity and fairness for all, not just a few?
For all.
For all.
Yeah. And I would just caveat on that, the local level elections are much more important than the state and federal. We can have a Republican House and Senate, a Republican president, but if we have the wrong leadership at the school boards or at the mayor's office or at the city council who actually enforce and carry out a lot of those laws, then it's going to be terrible at that level. So it's important that folks get out and vote for Deborah and get her in there, because guess what? If you don't, we're going to have some issues.
We already do have issues in this
Yeah.
little town, and if
Yeah.
there's not the right leadership, like you said, people that can get the job done, that will work overtime, that will do a ton of research before they just blindly vote for something,
Yeah.
or not maybe blindly, but
No, you're
without
right.
doing enough due diligence, right?
No. The first one was right. Blindly.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to call it like it is. We have some elected officials that'll just hit the red or green button and know nothing about the bill. But most importantly, I like to think about the consequences of voting yes or no, not just the action of voting yes or no. And that's why we do a lot of research.
Absolutely. And you started off this show by saying, you're doing this for the generations 100 years out.
Yes.
So if you're voting just for yourself, be mindful that you're leaving a legacy for your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-great-grandchildren.
Yeah,
and we
absolutely
have
are.
to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to wrap it up and remind people that Walt Blackman will be here for about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
He would love to meet you. We have his signs here at 431 South Beeline Highway, Suite 1. So come over, meet him, and get some cake while you're at it. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Cameron Davis. Go to Deborah for Payson on my Facebook site and deborahforpayson.com. And again, Walt Blackman, what was your website one more time?
Still Fighting for America and at the Walt Blackman. And please get out and vote for Deborah.
Yeah, please vote. Thank you for joining us.